Gothic novels possess an everlasting quality that both troubles and fuels the realms of art, film, and fashion. So today we'll be exploring the interconnectedness between avant-garde fashion and horror films, highlighting their infrangible parallelism. So before we begin this madness, I urge you to please like this video and subscribe to my channel. This topic isn't chosen because it's Halloween season, but because my never-ending penchant for the uncanny. You know that sex sells, right? So we start with vampires. The vampire genre never fails to elude hyper-erotic overtones. From silent films to anime to romantic novels, vampires are the most beguiling creatures among the Night Stalkers. According to Kathy Horan, in fashion, sexuality is the main creative motor, and when expressed in a new way you can't enter, you feel left behind. For us, meek mortals, things that are new and unknown are the most scary. So we revisit the sexiest vampire film ever made in the history of film, and that would be the Dracula in 1992 by Francis Ford Coppola.
Come to me, Arthur.
What do you see in these vampires? I mean, what do you feel when you see them? Is it the theatrical makeup or their hypersexual acting? Beyond the quotidian formula of a vampire film, one thing truly mattered in this film, and that would be the costumes made by the genius Eiko ISHIOKA. For me, Eiko ISHIOKA's works for Dracula capture the aesthetic menace embodied by the undead. Her concept of costuming is a cross-pollination across popular media, from cosplay to films to video games and even to runway shows. Her extravagant interpretation has set things in motion in horror films. In other words, it was ISHIOKA who transformed a boundary-pushing cultural mix into exquisite, transcendent, and surreal masterpieces. In Dracula, ISHIOKA skillfully employs the elements of nonconformity to signify difference and rebellion and resisting the norms. And as you all know, avant-garde fashion is all about that. Well, the first act of the film was a foreshadowing of what fashion we can expect in the film. Dracula, pre-vampire, was dressed with this grotesque armor resembling a mussel, anatomical, otherworldly, quite amusing for a very grim film. It stands out as one of the film's most memorable outfits, I would say. This armor is symbolical as well for ISHIOKA, who expressed her desire to break fashion boundaries and convey a fusion of cultures, blending the East and West between the European Anglo backdrop versus the futuristic Japanese samurai aesthetics. Additionally, the provocative musculature costume hints at the drag and punk culture. A striking example of this influence can be seen in Lady Gaga's 2010 meat dress, and also her muscle costume that she wore on her music video by the Filipino artist Leroy New. In fashion, Gareth Pugh, who is the master of blurring costumes and creating visceral impact in fashion runways, reinterpreted the body armor for his fall winter 2008. Another noteworthy element in the film is the setting was during the Victorian era, and in stark contrast, we see Dracula here in this dazzling, almost oriental themed red robe. He would have loved Guo-Pei's silken robes. The Count is truly living the avant-garde lifestyle. He was someone who unapologetically relished and marvels at his Dracula-ness, let's just say. 4 years later, in 1996, KAWAKUBO presented flowering clothes which mirrors a transgressive and ostentatious Dracula dressing. Dracula's iconic looks can also be likened in Comme des Garçons' 2015 collection entitled Blood and Roses, and for Spring-Summer 2020 with the elaborate demonic hairstyle coupled with the profanity of red. Of course, this also made me remember the genius McQueen for his fall winter 2008. Lucy's wedding/internment gown perfectly encapsulates was the perverted Victorian sensibility. It was mutated by a plurality of transgressive cultures. The flamboyant headpieces, intricate lacing, oversized sleeves, a trailing train, and the garish makeup. It all embraced the aesthetics of drag culture. It's a celebration of extravagance with a playful couture campy flair. And camp and couture may be from two different worlds. However, the lines, I believe, are slowly blurring. And in haute couture, spring-summer 2022, Victor and Rolf transformed the notion of fear into something positive. The collection imbued the allure of Lucy's Elizabethan dress into something contemporary. I mean, Lucy would have loved those dresses. However, they chopped off her head in the film.
Do it now.
Also like to mention the escapism and fantasy that Galliano has bestowed upon us. In fall 2009, it may have been a reimagination of The Brides of Dracula and Lucy Harker. Well, The Brides of Dracula also provided a stellar entertainment in the film. The film was made in the 90s, where the costumes were used to amplify men's gaze towards women. Bridal makeup and theatrics were very otherworldly, and it has a parallel ISHIOKA'N approach. Going back to Eiko ISHIOKA, her avant garde costuming creatively blurs the lines of art, and it draws inspiration from counterculture media to redefine Gothic culture. In general, the costume serves as a visual representation of the unwavering commitment to the patriarchal values that these vampires challenge and defy. Perhaps that's the reason why fashion outsiders like me have strong feelings to these creatures of the night. Day in and day out, we strive and thrive to be ourselves amidst the dangers of persecution and ridicule. Numerous films have delved into the frightening concepts of rogue robots and malfunctioning machines. The idea that technology posing threat to humanity has been a popular and tantalizing theme for horror enthusiasts like me. And what makes it even more scary, what makes it even more chilling, is that this takeover is unfolding in real time. The battle between machine and humans is present reality. It's as clear as day. One pivotal film in shaping this genre is Fritz Lang's Metropolis. Apart from its grim storyline, the film's true magnificence lies in its captivating costumes and visual aesthetics. Mind you, this was created in 1927. In Rick Owens' 2009 collection, he designed a robot-inspired jacket, which incidentally bears a striking resemblance to the main character of the film, named Maria or Futura. And funnily enough, he even named the jacket the robot jacket. And again, in 2021, Rick Owens revisited his beloved robot inspiration for the Wader Kiss boots that he made for Phlegathon. Take a closer look at the intricate details of these boots and observe, how they echo and mirror the aesthetics of the film's poster, drawing inspiration from the Cubism, Bauhaus, and Art Deco movement. In the spring-summer 2007, under Nicolas' direction, he created a campaign revolving around futurism. Nicolas skillfully imagined Maria as a suburban fashion robot. While there's no malevolence in this portrayal, there's something unsettling about a humanoid machine against the idyllic suburban neighborhood, right? Like, it raises the question, have they already infiltrated our lives?
Ready?
The robots are coming.
The concept of humanoid also trickled down to print and pop icons for its shock value. Karl Lagerfeld pays homage to Metropolis for Vogue in 2010, featuring the iconic Mugler robot suit. Similarly, we share a sense of unease whenever we see robots or automatons and humanoids in the realm of fashion or in everyday life. This is what we call uncanny valley. The concept of uncanny was first defined by Freud in 1919 in his essay Das Unheimliche, which explores the eeriness of dolls and waxworks. According to him, the uncanny is located in the strangeness of the ordinary. However, the uncanny valley is a term developed by the Japanese Masahiro Mori in his 1970 book entitled Bukimi no Tani. And in this phenomenon, he mentioned that people feel a sense of danger or unease or even revulsion in response to humanoid robots that are highly realistic. Fashion historian Ambert Butchart suggests that Frankenstein, particularly the creature, serves as a captivating Gothic symbol for fashion designers to draw inspiration from, due to its strong connection to the human body and the concept of bodily transformation. She goes on to argue that this notion fundamentally underpins the very essence of the fashion industry. Many fashion houses have paid homage to this colossal creature. Some were conceptual, some were too costumey, and some were too, super literal. Hello, Prada. And at first glance, the creature, as we call it, wears a dark suit with shortened coat sleeves to give the impression of an enlarged extremity. He also wore asphalt spreading boots, creating a towering effect. In the 1930s, this may have been a uniform for the freak, but now that we are in the 21st century, I'd like to call it the entry-level avant-garde uniform and the dark style starter kit. But I wanted to focus more on the essence of Frankenstein to avant-garde fashion, especially in garment construction, and that is the idea of splicing garments. In fashion, the term Frankenstein indicates a garment construction using different fabrics, patterns, and cuts sewn together. The result is an experimental piece, which is what avant-garde fashion is all about, right? Where KAWAKUBO reimagined the theme of romance and tragedy of the novel, resulting her 2005 collection entitled Ballerina Motorbike, wherein she fuses the romanticism of the ballerina versus the ruggedness of the football aesthetics. In one of my videos, I described this comme des garçons skirt as a Frankenstein patchwork skirt. And notice how the ambiguous stitching and abstract shapes were used as an accent to the simple skirt. From a boring normal person, this is a work of macabre and ugly and weird. They'd probably ask, why bother putting these to the beautiful skirt? We would never know the answer. I mean, you can go ask the woman yourself. Going back to another Japanese designer, Chitose Abe at Sakai has sustained this garment hybridization, merging dichotomies between couture and street style. In her universe, t-shirts are eaten by t-shirts. There is an apparent incest of fabrics, the conjoining of clothing. Sakai's Chitose Abe is considered the designer who defined the contemporary Frankenstein pieces. These signature pieces may not scream Frankenstein. However, her ethos mirrors the madness of the creature's construction, resulting into a new DNA in fashion design. In the same vein, Frankenstein was created imperfectly, coming from a place of madness. It was pieced together from different limbs, both animal and human, resulting to the character's abstraction. In effect, this non-conformity with the canon of beauty would later on be appreciated by the fashion avant-garde movement, thank God. To say that we are all monsters would be derogatory, but it's something to ponder because we continue to create and reinvent ourselves. Piece by piece, portion by portion, we are both the doctor and the creature, the maker and the monster. The best horror films are those that execute sinister imageries without giving too much. The power of the fear of the unknown. John Hollander, a poet and film critic, stated in his essay, Fear Itself, the meta-fear of disorientation, which is when we do not know what exactly is scaring us, or whether we should be scared in the first place. The power of the human imagination can make us believe highly irrational thoughts are true. In line with this chapter, I'd like to introduce the shadows. Shadows in their nature are obscure, which raises our suspicion. Shadows represent the unknown. Their ambiguous quality can create prison of fear. Hence, the best monsters are evil materialized through sinister silhouettes. I'm actually a fan of this uncanny fear, as these linger on for days and for weeks. Think Blair Witch Project in 2000 or Nosferatu in 1922. It's a silent German expressionist film, a testament that silhouettes alone can instigate fear. And I must say that in fashion, the fearless are the ones who become feared the most. And in this arena, Comme des Garçons is king. KAWAKUBO of Comme des Garçons, who is always pregnant with new concepts, gave birth to gazillions of looks that on a layman's level seemed horror cosplay at its finest. Let's quickly touch on her most macabre silhouettes, as her ability to execute larger-than-life couture garments in mascot proportions will always be unparalleled. Rather than reshuffling the existing atoms of design motifs, she insists on pulling new forms. And in fact, in 2013, for her runway collection, she has decided to stop making clothes. According to her, she was making objects for the body. For her 2014 collection, the theme is monster. The message was a love letter to the modern-day monsters that society labels as freaks and outsiders. That's me. According to KAWAKUBO, in one of her rare interviews, the expressions of the monsters I have made has a much deeper meaning. The craziness of humanity, the fear we all have, the absence of ordinariness expressed by something extremely big. I wanted to question the established standards of beauty. And she continues, the monsters I thought about are those that don't fit in, those who think differently from the majority, the people of exception, outsiders. I wish that society would place more importance and value on these kinds of monsters. In 2015, her collection entitled Ceremony of Separation, she tackled expressions of loss through Victorian mourning dresses and silhouettes that resemble sarcophagi. It evoked a claustrophobic, coffin-like tension. And another beautiful collection was in 2016 entitled Blue Witch. KAWAKUBO drawn motif of sorcery sensationalism with a message of uplifting women who are wrongly misjudged and misrepresented by society. I know we have stopped burning witches long time ago, but up to this day, we're persistently burning women, metaphorically. Since we're on the topic of witches and scary silhouettes, nothing is ever more scary than seeing figures and totems. What more if the size is 100 times bigger? Horror ritualism enters a new shape in the film Wicker Man. Painted with bizarre and unsettling tones, Wicker Man has become a cult horror film, so influential it wormed its way into the fashion world. However, the fashion inspiration didn't come from the actors or the costumes in that film, but from the ominous and lurky feeling of being watched, of being an outsider, of having that foreboding sense of danger. No wonder avant-garde designers have reveled to this ominous gigantism of the Wicker Man. Well, a Wicker Man is purportedly a large wicker statue in which the Druids have burned humans or animals for sacrifice. These malevolent themes about human sacrifice and ritualism are themes that are ponderously revisited by fashion designers, especially in the avant-garde scene. As a reference, Gareth Pugh, in his fall 2007 collection, cited the movie for this inspiration, which consisted of hyper-rigid colossal frameworks and paneled constructions that can double up as a makeshift tent. Another visionary and thought-provoking British designer that I want to mention in this chapter is Craig Green, renowned for its strikingly poetic silhouettes, instrumental in flourishing the menswear fashion by executing conceptual menswear pieces that resembles more of an art installation rather than regular clothes. However, for Spring-Summer 2018 campaign, he took a transcendental approach. The images of burning talismanic sculptures that resemble human, and this concept strike a similar chord to the horror film Wicker Man. Like in the film, the signature Craig Green design collectively possess mysticism that can only be worshipped by the true avant-garde believers. Sharp objects, horn-like formations, and protrusions, they create a feeling of danger. In the movie The Tragedy of Macbeth, when the seemingly delicate elderly witch portrayed by Catherine Hunter transformed and lifted her shoulders, it significantly heightened the eerie atmosphere. Two design houses that have been cunningly sending looks straight from the underworld are Balenciaga and Rick Owens. Their shoulders, so otherworldly that it does not bring images of the good old 80s anymore, but more of a phantasmagorical subversion of the human anatomy. In the book Extreme Beauty, The Body Transformed, it considers how the mechanisms of costume have transformed the zones of the body by artificially changing the body silhouette. For Rick and Demna Gvasalia's Balenciaga, the shoulders cocoon, it armors, it torques, and sometimes it exposes the frailty of the human shape. By creating costumes out of bodies, the body becomes the costume. Costumes conceal the true nature only to reveal the unknown. And usually the revelation part is horror on its own. Speaking of which, the symbolical reveal, also known as the fleshing out, was literally and beautifully done in the film Under the Skin, where the realness of the species emerged. The voidness and the illusory of the mysterious entity was established with the blackened figure and skin. This can be likened and compared to Balenciaga's militia of aliens. The black figure or the black skin also harkens to the skin-tight leather pieces and how people perceive these leather pieces as their second skin. Right now, we're actually seeing a lot of over-experimentation in terms of shape-shifting silhouettes in terms of leather. And I think that's because we're sick of the banal. Maybe we are all ready to welcome these so-called aliens, and in response, we're starting to dress up like them. Sartorial obsessions are indeed an undercurrent in many horror films. That's why I love horror films. It gives rise to catharsis. And I believe fear is where inspiration begins. And in fact, according to Valerie Steele, she characterized horror-inspired fashion as a type of dopamine dressing that boosts the wearer's mood. From the extraterrestrial and the occult, we then jump to pseudo-mysticism with Saint Maud. It's not necessarily a fashion film, but Saint Maud is another favorite of mine for its disturbing slow burn. The film is about a person's obsession that led to self-destruction. The themes of cult and procession was fortified during the final moments of the film, where she was seen in this biblical gown. The best fashion moments in the film come from the idea of transformation, may it be physical or metaphorical. This mere dressing up as Jesus was so symbolic to her character building and development. And at the final moments of the film, this Jesus cosplay was an arc to describe her new euphoria, her new sense of power despite being under the pretense of delusion. And similarly, the biblical motif and the cult aesthetic has always been best portrayed by Avant Garde designers. Their collections are always built upon a dystopian slant. The clothes and the atmosphere are always ceremonial. And let's not forget the fans. They're not just clients, but also worshippers and disciples. Avant-garde designers may be niche in the global scheme of things, however, they have the most devout followers. It's a testament that world building in fashion is fortified when there is faith and fanaticism. Let's admit it, avant-garde fashion is not for everyone. It is deemed as imperfect, grotesque, dark, and depressing. However, I do hope that this video will continue to extend your imagination and expand the floodgates of inspiration. May you all find beauty in every form without fear. And with that, I conclude this video and I shall see you on my next one. Happy Halloween and stay safe.